On December 7th, 1988, a great earthquake devastated the northwestern section of the region known as Armenia, killing an estimated 25,000 people. In one small town, just after the earthquake, a father rushed to his son's school only to find that the school had been flattened. There was no sign of life. But he had no thought of turning back. He had often told his son, "No matter what, I'll always be there for you when you need me." Though his prospects appeared hopeless, the father began feverishly removing rubble from where he believed his son's classroom had been. Some told the father to go home, that there was no chance that any of the pupils could be alive. To which he always replied, "I made my son a promise that I'd be there for him anytime he needed me. I must continue to dig." Courageously, he worked alone. No one volunteered to help him. With strength and endurance beyond himself, the faithful, loving father continued to dig for 8 hours, 12 hours, 24, 36 hours. Then, in the 38th hour, as he heaved away a heavy piece of rubble, he heard voices. "My son," he screamed. A child's voice responded, "Dad, it's me." And then he said, "I told the other kids not to worry. I told them that if you were alive, you'd save me, and when you saved me, they'd be saved. You promised you would always be there for me. You did it, Dad." Moments later, the dad was helping his son and 13 more frightened, hungry, thirsty boys and girls climb out of the debris, free at last. When the building had collapsed, these children had been spared in a tent-like pocket. When the townspeople praised this father, his exclamation was simply, "I promise my son, no matter what, I'll be there for you." This true story, I think, is a beautiful example or summary of the story of the biblical story, what we would call salvation history. The story of God's breaking into the world to come and save us. Because the story of the Bible is from the beginning. There was the fall of mankind when we fell into our own sin and were lost in devastation and destruction. And the whole rest of the story is God's work of breaking back into the world, breaking back into his people, to bring them back to himself, digging through the rubble to get to them again and again making this promise, essentially repeating the same process as the promise as the father made to his son. No matter what happens, I will be there for you. But this whole biblical story, the salvation history, it's not just some story of an ancient people, the ancient people of Israel and God favoring them. This is your story. This is our story. That whether you realize it or not, you are waiting to be rescued, and God has been working in your life from the moment of your conception to break into your life and bring you to himself. Like that father digging through the rubble to his son. No matter how long it takes, despite the grueling work, despite people saying there's no hope, why are you even trying? That God continues to dig into the rubble of our life, and the rubble that is our life, to find us. Because he made a promise. I am your Father, and I will never leave you. So no matter where you find yourself in your story, in this story, this biblical story that is your story, whether you feel that you're enslaved, waiting to be rescued, needing to be liberated, maybe you're at a place where you feel you're rejoicing because you've been liberated from something in your life. Maybe you feel like you're at the place where you're wandering lost in the wilderness, trying to find your way back home, the place where you belong. And maybe you don't know where that is. Or maybe that you're at the place where you feel like you've abandoned everything you used to know, the good you used to know and all that was familiar, to turn to our own gods, struggling with our own demons. Or that maybe we feel banished and exiled. That the hopes and dreams we once had, all that was good and familiar, seem dashed upon the rocks of reality. But again and again throughout this story, your story, no matter where you find yourself in this story, there's this whisper of a promise that God makes. No matter what happens, I will be there for you. Emmanuel, God with us. And so what we celebrate tonight isn't just the birth of a baby, but it's the inbreaking of God into the world, bringing about to fulfillment and fruition this promise that he makes to us again and again, that I will be there for you, that I will break into the world, that I will dig through the rubble of your life for you, to find you, to rescue you, no matter what, because I am your God and you are my beloved. The inbreaking of the divine God and his light into the world and into your life. Whether you believe the promise or not, whether you're at a place that you feel you can believe the promise or not, the promise is whispered again and again by the Father who is faithful. That I will come and be with you and find you. That I am God with you, Emmanuel. And so to close, we have these words that are spoken to us from the prophet Isaiah that captures this mystery of Christmas that we experience, of the light breaking into the world. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of gloom, a light has shone. Amen.